come the Big Rig Kids, y'all. Are you ready? Let's go. Here come the Big Rig Kids. Roll with the Big Rig Kids. Let's have fire the truck. Take you to such amazing places with the Big Rig Kids. Those helpful Big Rig Kids.
Welcome everybody to Conversations with Grandma Polly, and we have a very exciting and wonderful guest today by the name of Donald Gilliard, who's done so many amazing things, but I'm going to let him and Grandma Polly talk about that. But I do want to bring in the grandma that everybody knows and loves, Grandma Polly. Give it up for Grandma Polly, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, it's happy Thursday. And welcome to Conversation with Grandma Polly. Today we have a very special guest here. His name is Mr. Donald Gilliard. He's a community activist. He's involved in politics. He served out. He came back to politics, and I'm excited to have him here this evening because we have a lot of things to talk about that's going on in our community. But my biggest thing is that he made some choices in his life that wasn't good for him, he thinks. But at the same time, he went through what he went through in order to be where he is today. And he has so many accolades, I'm not going to even attempt to touch on them. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Donald Gilliard so he could tell us a little bit about himself before we go into the conversation.
All right.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank her for this warm words and the wonderful uh, um, things that she said about me. But I'm a story of redemption. I'm someone who grew up, made some bad choices in my life, and went to federal prison for 20 years. I was actually sentenced to life. I served 20. And I've been home now 11 years. And I'm involved in politics, community activism, and I have a production company. And God has truly been good to me as I've tried to give back to my community.
All right.
Okay.
What's going on?
Nothing but God. And I'm going to dive right into it because you have so much into your story. For me, I reached out to you personally because this law that just passed with Juneteenth, I feel some kind of way about it. I've known about Juneteenth for some time now, and plenty of us have been recognizing Juneteenth. We've participated in events around town. Me myself personally, between North Carolina and South Carolina, where there would be weekend events that recognize Juneteenth. And we always, for a long time we've been doing this. But when this law went into effect and they called it a federal holiday, me personally, I feel like it's a pacifier to us as Black people. And when I mean that, what I mean by pacifier, they made it a federal holiday, but how many of our Black people actually work federal jobs? The majority of us work what we call essential jobs. So how do you feel that we benefit from it as a federal holiday? I don't get it. I just don't understand that part of it. And I think it was a pacifier, but I know you were someone who's been working on the team going into law a long time ago. So I'm gonna step back and let you tell me, some of your stories on that.
Well, it's mixed bags in terms of the Juneteenth. Um, is that I found out about Juneteenth over 30 years ago. And I actually found out while I was serving time in federal prison, we would run into guys who were from the state of Texas, and they would tell us about Juneteenth. And of course, I'd done my research. And after doing my research, I thought to myself, we're running around celebrating the 4th of July, American ancestors. And I just think it's important that that we recognize our ancestors, we celebrate them, and that we don't allow anybody to disrespect them. So personally, I don't celebrate the 4th of July, Independence Day, because our people were still in slavery. And what we did in the federal prison was simply ask them to allow us to celebrate Juneteenth in the federal prison system the same way that they celebrate the 4th of July with all of the hoopla, special meals. We had a concert. We had educational things to teach people about Juneteenth and that sort of thing. But you're correct. It could be considered a pacifier because at the same time we were celebrating, they gave us a holiday of Juneteenth. There was the greatest assault on civil liberties and our rights and our voting rights that we've had in this country in over 200 years. I mean, and it's calculated, um, and I'm quite frankly baffled in terms of why we're not marching on the Capitol ourselves in terms of what they're doing with the assault on voting right and voting issues all over this country right now. I mean, really, it's criminal in terms of what they're doing. And we're going about our business like, everything's okay. And they've got a master plan.
Wow.
I agree with you 100% on that. When, we talk about our voting rights, and this is some of the things that I speak to other people about. I've heard many people say, what's the use of voting? Um, that it's not going to make a difference. It's not going to do any good. Well, in this last past election, I think it showed, Georgia showed that it makes a difference. They went out and they turned this country blue. They turned it blue. Biden got in there.
That's right.
He's in there. He's trying to
I'm
do his thing. Georgia turned blue. That's why it's important. When we get out, when we come together as a collective people, understanding our
yes.
purpose and what we're working against, because you have to know the enemy. You got to know what you're working against. And when we come together as a people, there is nothing we can't do. So when it comes down to
Well,
voting,
yeah.
who said?
First, I want to
Okay.
commend. I'm in love with what you all were able to do in Georgia and what Stacey Abrams have been able to do in mobilizing this massive voter registration drive. And I saw how African Americans standing in those lines, and those lines were long, and they were standing in there for hours and hours and hours. And it really reminded me again of our ancestors. They would do that. I remembered my grandparents when they got the right to vote. I remembered going to voting for them was like going to church. I mean, they would dress up in their clothes and their Sunday best, getting ready to head down to the polls and vote. And so I'm just overjoyed in terms of what you all were able to do in Georgia. But I really think that you all have to share it with the other southern states. Because when you look at the demographics, South Carolina and Georgia demographics are very similar. And we should be able to do it here. But it's hard to get the information, to get the method, I mean, that organization and what you are able to do in Georgia has to be shared with the other states, southern states, so we could do the same. We need help, and we need you all to help us.
Definitely. Is she still on?
But my next question is, huh?
Go ahead.
What'd you say, Keith?
The audio was off for a minute. Go ahead. Okay.
I didn't hear you.
Carry on.
Okay. I agree, but I also think, Donald, and just one thing you touched on. I remember my grandparents. I remember Dad would work all day. He would come home, take a shower, and just like you said, he would dress like he was going to church. They went out, and this was a pride thing for them.
Yes.
This was a must thing for them. And when I hear, excuse me, when I hear the saying Black Lives Matter, it's more to me than just standing out there with a sign. It's more to me than just being out there protesting. We have the power in our votes. And this is where we have to be able to reach our people. You know, during the time I was canvassing, I would hear a lot of young guys tell me, "Oh, we only vote when when it's time for the presidential election." But they
Right.
have to understand that you have your federal, you have your state, you have your city, and your county, and all these things work hand in hand. And when it comes down to my city, my county, and my state, I need to know who is representing my state. I need to know who's representing my city, to know who's representing my county, because that's where the true effects come in, where it affects us as a people. But I'm gonna it over to you so you can elaborate on that too.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because locally here where I live, and I'm from the same hometown you're from, in Georgetown, South Carolina, we had a local situation where a company wanted to build some affordable housing in our county. In order to make it work, they had to put it in an area designated under the Economic Opportunity Zone to get the federal tax break, to get the state tax break. This would allow them to build these houses with people with incomes between 13,000 and 30,000 would be able to move into those apartments. And of course, the area that was designated was near Wedgefield Plantation area, which is a upper middle class white area that fought it, and they fought it like the Negroes are coming. The Negroes are coming. We cannot let this development be, and it was a mile away. Still, they didn't want the Negroes that close to them. And actually, a black county councilman that voted the final vote to kill the development. I mean, it
Wow.
was really, really, it was a slap in the face, African Americans. But they elected him to county council, and he made the vote. In fact, I was at the vote when county council made that decision, and it was 98% white folks in there. And when he made the vote, all the white folks stood up and clapped. And I'm like, I can't believe this. He actually voted against it, and
Wow.
now maybe private developers will come in, but when the private developers come in, they don't have those tax breaks and those incentives, so that's going to drive the price up, where the people probably can't even afford to live on because they don't have big incomes anyhow. You know, so local government
Right.
right there um, uh, denied housing for people who needed it.
Yeah. I want to.
Right. Go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off what you said. Some of the research that I've done on it as well. Back in the actually in the fifties and sixties, when it was more of a socialist atmosphere, because they were giving credit and home loans to a lot of the Caucasian people, and it was unheard of
Yeah.
for black people. And like today now is regentrification, how they're basically just taking the land. It's even worse than eminent domain, really, with that whole scenario. But to piggyback off what you said, that how that happened for a black man to just turn that whole vote around when it was on him. These are the people. I guess this is the question I'm getting to, because it's a lot of us that are doing things that are hurting us in the process. You know what I mean? How would you go about combating that?
Well, one thing I'm doing, I'm going to lead the charge to get him off of county council. I can tell you
Yeah,
that. We're going to do that. But this was a time that we were fortunate, and then we had two Republican county councilmen who were going to vote in support of it. And the reason they were going to vote in support of it, first of all, it was the right thing to do. Secondly, both of those county councilmen, the white Republican county councilmen, were not running for re-election again next year. They're not going to run. And so this was the time for us to do it. And with them not running, they didn't, they said, listen, we're just going to do what's right. We're not running it again. We're not going to run again anyhow. But so it's going to be real difficult to get this done again unless we come some other way. And we're working on some other ways to be able to get some affordable housing in here for people to live in better conditions. Because everybody works hard. Some people work on the beach, they clean those hotels, but they work hard. They go to work days a week. They don't make a whole lot of money.
yeah,
But they still deserve to have a decent place to live, to raise their family. Everybody wants that.
yeah.
And so we just have to continue again to combat what's going on in this country. And you all know everything that the last president Trump did to the mindset in this country. And let me be honest with you, he brought out some issues, and he brought out some emotions and feelings that were there all along in white America. Understand this. Everybody thinks Trump is. Listen, Trump is saying the same thing that they felt all along. He just emboldened them to be able to bring out those racist ideas.
Definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Say that. But all my own personal feeling and understanding is because I'm independent. I'm not Democratic. I'm not Republican. I'm independent.
Yeah.
And some ways now, we have to learn to research these candidates. We have to know these candidates. We have to engage with these candidates. A lot of times we don't see these candidates in our community and in our churches until they want our vote. And our votes are valuable. So we need to be careful where we put it. It should not be based on whether the person is white, whether the person is black, whether I've known you all my life, but it's what is your agenda and how are you going to help my community? And
Definitely.
so many people, we are so divided when it comes down to Democrat, Republican. The parties are so far divided.
Yeah. Are you there, Renee? We
Yeah,
may.
Polly, can I add there?
Yeah.
And I understand the importance of us, being, that we're not Republicans or we're not Democrats or we're independents or whatever. But I'll tell you, Polly, studying politics and seeing what's going on in this country, um, the Republicans, Polly, simply, all of them have been voting against the issues as it relates to poor people, people of color. It, it, That's what they've been doing. And so they forced me not to support them just by their actions, just by their policies, just by their votes. All you have to do is follow them. So I understand us not being pigeonholed, but I tell you one thing: if you can find me some good Republicans that you think are trying to do something to help folks, please send it to me. I want to help them.
Definitely. Definitely. I think we're having a little technical difficulty on Grandma Polly's side, but she looks like she's back in.
Could you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Yeah. We definitely
I can
gonna
hear
have
you
to
now.
do this one again. We're definitely gonna have to do this one again. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, Donald. But I'm saying some people get so pigeonholed to where if it's a black person, they don't care what that black
Yeah,
person agenda is. They're going to vote
yeah,
for it.
you're right.
Some people are so pigeonholed is I'm going the straight Democratic ticket. Some people are so pigeonholed to where I'm going the straight Republican ticket. And this is how they win these elections. And this is how they get away with the garbage that they bring back to us. I'm saying we
Yeah,
need to educate ourselves and know who these people are who we're voting for, regardless of what party.
Definitely.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm in total agreement with that. And that's one of the things I did. I ran a campaign a few years ago for a white guy. He was Jewish, a professor at Coker College named Al Hyman. He was running for Congress. And let me tell you something: progressive, socially liberal. I mean, the real deal. I'm talking the real deal. And we ran against a black candidate, the state legislature, didn't know the issues. Clearly, clearly, even his record legislation was not a progressive one as it relates to us. And we lost to him. And I could not figure that out. I'm like, because in the Democratic primary, African Americans controlled who was going to win because white folks decided who was going to win in November. But this was in a Democratic primary. The black candidate would not even debate my candidate. My candidate was clearly the best candidate for African Americans as well. But black folks went in there and voted for the black guy because he was black. It was pitiful. It was really pitiful. They did.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
So
that's the
you're right.
sad part because I mean, to me, when you narrow it down to that, you're giving people permission to treat you like you're nobody. I tell these kids,
Yeah.
when you go out in these midterm elections, when you have to vote for who's going to be your judge, who's going to be your prosecutor, all this stuff. My thing is, think about it. Look at what they do to you, to our community as a person. I know, Donald,
Yes.
you served 20 years, but
Yes.
I will put my hand out on it because I ain't gonna take my life, but I will put my right hand out on it where they can chop it off if I'm wrong. There could have been a white guy that committed the same crime that you did that would have gotten less time. But
Oh
we put
God,
these
you don't
judges
open
in
up a
there.
can of worms there. I mean, I mean, you just couldn't believe it. I'm telling you. When I was in the with the federal system, of course, I spent my time in the library, in the prison library, working to try to get out because I actually had a life sentence. And in a federal prison, a life sentence being life, that means you don't come out there until the mortician come to get your body.
Hmm.
So I was in there
Mm-hmm.
fighting the whole time, and so I'm watching cases and guys who had like 10,000 times more drugs than I had, who were white, who had 5 years and 6 years. It was. The disparity was incredible, and it's going on right now. It's going on right now. Obama didn't release as many as he should have because he knew it. He's a constitutional lawyer. He was well aware of what was going on in the justice system. in the criminal justice system, and he did not do it. I mean, there's some that got out, but he could have had a full overhaul of that entire system, and he didn't do it. And we're going to see what Biden is going to do. Rather, he's going to have an overall, of that system. But I'm telling you now, the young black brothers and sisters in those prisons wall right now with 25-year sentences for the drugs now in its genocide. It's pure genocide. And people like ourselves, Polly, you and my beautiful brother that's on this podcast, man, we got a responsibility. We really do. They're guys right now, man, is hoping that we don't forget them, that we don't, that we remember them, and we fight for them. They don't have anybody else to fight for them. And so the, the little small influence that we have, we're obligated to try to use it. We really are. Because there's some beautiful brothers that are in those prisons that could be out here taking care of their families, being productive, and they got caught out.
System ad. And I tried to tell young people this because I wasn't very familiar with it. And there's still a lot that I don't know, but the things that I do know, I share. I drove trucks across this country for 8 years.
Say it again.
I drove trucks across this country for 8 years.
Yes.
I can remember the first time we had this load that we were taking. Sometimes they tell you what's in it, sometimes they don't. We didn't know what was back there. We knew the address where we were going to, but we didn't know where we
Right.
were going to. It was a prison. Backed up to that prison dock. When they opened that door, it was inserts for mattresses. So I see prison as the new form of slavery. They're sitting in prison. They're creating these mattresses for these big name furniture companies out here. So now you have your prisoners who are working for these outside businesses for pennies, and them thousands and thousands of dollars off the stuff that we go and buy out of the store, and it's slave labor. And now we're dealing with slavery all over again. That's what I see it as, just another form of slavery. With the oversentencing, the way the system is ran. I mean, if you don't have money for bail, you sit there forever. I don't know if you guys.
Looks like we have Renee's internet is causing us some trouble. She's coming in right now, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's bring her back. Thank you for your patience tonight.
Oh,
Okay.
it's clear now. We're gonna have to do this one again. But I don't know if you guys remember the story out of New York, where that
You're
young
real
kid
clear
they
now.
accused him of stealing a backpack, and he ended up in Rikers before he even went to trial. He was there for 7 years, several years, because the parents could not afford to pay his bail.
Oh, absolutely. 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 And one of the prisons I was at, they actually had a call center. So people all over the world, all over the country, are calling in. They don't know it's a prisoner in the call. They had a call center. Can you imagine? And guys were fighting to get the jobs at the call center. You know why? Because they were going to get $2 an hour, and that was a real battle. You were making $100
Wow.
an hour. You're in prison, and you're fighting to get this job, paying $2 an hour. The same job to somebody get 15 or 18 or $20 an hour at a call center. Prisoners were doing those calls. Right. Absolutely.
Wow.
Prisoners were running the call center.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, this is what I'm talking about. And we have to educate our young people on this. And Donald, I know your mom. I used to work with her. And the
Yes, you told
mistakes
me
that
that.
you made back then, I cannot say that you did this because you did not have home training. I know your mom well. So when I hear people blame, oh well, where were the parents or what were the parents doing? Nah, our children are who they are. And it takes the village to raise these children. You did not come from a family that did not care.
I did not.
It was
I
just a
did
choice
not, and
that
I
you
don't claim.
made.
And I don't claim. And Polly, as I travel all over the country doing speeches, I tell people, where there was a lack of love. I didn't come out of a home where there were no family values. I didn't come up living in the projects. I didn't. I'll admit that. But I got caught up in America's capitalism. I actually did, and the peer pressure, and seeing people driving big, fancy, nice cars, and just finding an easy, what I thought was an easy way out. And so I don't have anybody to blame, but myself. I really don't.
But I am so glad you just said something that rised up in me that really got my attention. And it was like you got caught up in nice things. And this is what I can
Yeah,
sing when it comes down to the rappers and entertainers and all this stuff. They're putting this stuff out, and these kids, they don't, they're not looking at the side of where, well, if I get out there and I work, or if I go and I get educated, it's going to take me a little longer, but I can still have some of the things that I want. The way social media, TV, all this stuff is putting it out there to them. It brings it to them in a glamorous way, like it's a glamorous life. With the rap music and all that
yes.
stuff now, I think it does more hurt to our society than it helps. But then even they're making pennies off of it compared to the people who are behind them pushing. So we're
Yeah,
still dealing with a society where they're capitalizing off of our children's talent, even though the talent comes off in a negative way. It's the people who's pushing it who's benefiting from it. How do we get our children to understand this?
well, I think it's an educational process. And it's interesting, again, that you mentioned that as well. As we spoke about it earlier, the programs that we were doing in the federal prison, well, we actually would do concerts and during that time. And what we did was we challenged the young guys in the system, to be able to write their music and raps in a positive way. And so you will be amazed how talented these guys are. These guys, is what they say. These guys could do better. I'm telling you. I used to listen to them, when we had the concerts, and I mean, you got to understand, we had real concerts. Like one of my musical director used to play, he was a member of the Barcades, the Barcades. He was there in federal prison too. He was our
Wow.
musical director. So these guys could play. The other guy's a jazz musician. His son's got a jazz album out now, and and they would write the rap songs, and they would go back to our ancestors, to Africa, and they would do it in a positive way, and there wasn't no B and hoes, or no kind of negative, degrading thing about women. It was uplifting us, and they would do it, and it would have that same beat, that same rhythm, because you all know we love to be able to pat our feet and shake our heads, and all that. That's in our nature, it's in our DNA, and they could do it, and we found out they could do it by even using positive lyrics. So I know the music that the rappers are doing now, you can still have the same beat that we want and still have a message that's different than talking about foolishness. That's my issue. Is what they talk about.
I totally agree, and this is a conversation that I have all the time. Because when it comes down to us, we
Yeah,
are creative people. We are powerful people,
yeah,
but we have to pull together and put that positivity out there. So many people sell out for the dollar instead of us coming collectively together with our dollars and build our own. Because when we allow these other people to take over our stuff, they turn it into
Yeah,
what they want to turn it into.
yeah, yeah. And our sisters with you because a lot of the guys, our sisters, they want to see what kind of car they. So they're part of this issue. We cannot leave our sisters out of this discussion because
Oh
they
yes,
want to have the diamonds and the furs and the minks and the fancy cars and they want that, and so the men, they kind of want to make them happy, and so it's we all get in the same boat together, and meanwhile our people are dying and our people are hurting, and we are in some serious trouble in this country.
yes we are. We really are in serious. From our elderly people down to our newborn babies, we're in trouble. Because when I sit down, when you just sit down, when you look at the violence and you see the violence, and you tapped on part of the cause a while back when you talked about the ego socialism of this country. And when you have food deserts in communities where you can't even get fresh vegetables, where things are just not available to them. When COVID hit, you still have communities out there where some of these children were not even able to be homeschooled because it was so rural that you couldn't even get the internet out there.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's the poor people. It's not just black people. It's poor people. It's not a race
absolutely.
thing because you have the rich and the poor and all races, but it affects all of us. But when we're divided, we can't come to. I mean, when we can't come together, then nothing happens because the division destroys it.
Yeah. Hmm. Absolutely
Definitely.
correct. You're absolutely correct. It's absolutely correct. But Polly, I'm just glad what you're doing in terms of working with the children, writing the children books and that sort of thing. And I want to tell you, I've got a very dear friend in prison that wrote a children book from prison called "Prison Not a Playground," and I want to connect you with that because he could use some help. Because he's got a sequel to the Prison Is Not a Playground book that he hopes to have out in the next couple of months. And, I just wanted to throw that in. I won't change subjects on you. But I think it's perfect to connect you with
I
him
mean, yeah, that's
um,
cool.
because he's got
And
in
you
fact, I
went
wrote the
there.
forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote the forward for his first book. Yeah.
And that's cool. And I feel like this is, and well, we gone there. And the reason I wrote these books is because we have to get our children into reading. Reading, if you can read, you can do anything. But with the
Yes.
reading, is these are messages of things that's happening in our community. And the
Yes.
another reason I chose you to bring you because since we've been doing this, I've always had the ladies, and I'm like, no, I need to get the guys on here because I want my children to see people in a positive aspect, regardless of what they've been through. And like I told you on the phone the other day, when I created these characters, the twins, the grandmas raising them, we see a lot of that in our community. But dad
Yeah.
wasn't there because of a choice that dad made. Dad was there because he wasn't there at that time because he was in the military and the mom died during childbirth. Like I told you and Kenny, when it came down to Josh, who was their father, I made sure I kept Josh in a positive image. Because when it
Yes.
comes down
Support.
to our black men, we know how you guys are seen. And a lot of our black women are on that boat too. You know, black man ain't this, black man ain't, because they had a bad experience with one black man or maybe two black men. We want to throw them all in the same boat, but that's not true. We have plenty of black guys in our communities who are doing positive things, and they're doing great things. And I'm gonna back up way back, Donald, because you were working in politics at an early age, just passing out flyers,
Yeah.
who were actually running for these seasons. So we have to get our children to turn around. I would say to you guys though, when you're dealing with these children in single parent homes, these mothers are raising these kids, and some people won't believe this. This is just my opinion. I can raise
Yeah.
a black boy to be an adult, but I cannot teach him
Yes.
how to be a man. So we have
That's
to
right. You
get
can
our
make
black
teach him
men
how to be a man.
involved in the communities, because I feel like the churches have failed them. I feel like the communities have failed them. And I feel like a lot of our men have failed them. But in my mind, if we could just save at least one of them, then it was worth the effort.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. But Polly, again, everybody, you're doing your part. You're doing your part to make a difference. And
Yep.
that's all we can do. We all have to do our part. And I think it was, I
Well, I think we lost
He
him.
gone now. We
We
definitely got to do this one over Kenny.
Yeah, we're still on live though.
Um,
But
okay, we lost Mr. Gilliard for a second.
yeah,
And now I'm going to Kenny to ask him, what's your point of view on some of the stuff that we just discussed?
my point of view. Well, I'm glad you asked.
Hmm.
Uh, I just think a lot of what's going on. I mean, it's on purpose. We know that, and only way to eradicate it is to educate ourselves, really, and stick together. Like the Three Musketeers, one for all and all for one. You know, but the challenge is living in a capitalist society where people some don't know where they're getting their next meal, and they feel like they need to do whatever they have to do just to eat. You know, and that's the problem. If we can create a community where those needs are met, you know, like food, clothing, and shelter for people, then they
Hmm.
won't have to concentrate so much on that, worrying about where their next meal or anything is coming. Um, like I watched the what is it called? Um, the Messiah and Judas, that's on Netflix or HBO
Okay.
this month, and how they were doing things for the community, the Black Panthers with the kids breakfast and things like that, and making sure people ate, so those things right there they wouldn't have to worry about in life. You know, the food, clothing, and shelter, those are the basics. But once those things are met, people can focus on the spirituality of it and coming together and being one. But when you got a hungry stomach, it's like, I understand that. I do understand it.
Oh,
You know.
I'm, I'm I'm right there with you. I understand that, and that's why I keep saying we as a people have to pull together. If you remember, this is how each one of my book ends, where there is some type of community service
Mm-hmm.
that we actually get out in the community and do. We feed the homeless, we clothe them. I mean, we, like Donald said, I might can't get to everybody, but the few that we're able to help, it makes a difference. But
yes.
we have to do that. And you brought up Black Panther. That was something I was thinking about. They got condemned because they had the militant part to it. But the works that they did were great before they were infiltrated by the FBI. But Donald probably could say this too, Kenny, because we grew up in the South in these
Mm-hmm.
communities. I can remember when Dad had the farm. They had the garden, they had the farm, they had the home, they had the cow, they had all. I appreciate it today. I hated it back then because we were the one who had to feed the hog and all that stuff. But if Dad killed the hog, everybody right there in that little community got some of it.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
they did the
Yeah.
garden, everybody in that community got some of it. But we as a
Yeah.
society today, we've gotten to the point was, hey, I got mine, you got to get yours.
Yep.
You got to get yours. Yeah.
Are you there?
Yeah.
I'm here, but I don't know if Donald is. There you
Yeah. I'm
go.
here.
Okay,
Yes.
what was your, yeah, you know that attitude, I got mine, you got to get yours.
Yeah. And Polly, let me say this. And I'm using this analogy to shed some light on what happens here, even in the capitalistic society when you're outside of prison. In prison, you're in a closed environment, and when when someone is in your unit and he has a lot, he's got his people send him lots of money. He goes to the grocery store every week. He buys $200, $300 worth of stuff every week. He comes, he brings it to his locker. He locker. He's watching TV. He's eating these big dinners every day, And what happens is people look at him, And I'm telling you, after about 30 days, you may come in the unit and you find out, hey, the guy done break in so and so room, man, stole everything out of his locker. You know, I'm telling you, it's how you treat people. Because he had a lot, he didn't shoot anybody. He had, they didn't have, and that breeds on envy, jealousy, and people were like, okay, I'm going to try to knock you down a notch, And I just want y'all to understand the analogy of being out here. White folks in Gwinnett County or wherever in Georgia, they got them big $500,000, $700,000 house. Of course, of course, in Atlanta, black folks got them too. But that's just on that, trust me. But they got the big expensive houses and nice cars, all that, and some people struggling, hope they don't turn their lights off and that sort of thing. I mean, it creates a problem. It does.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And you're not the first person who has explained it to me that way. I remember a guy out of Charlotte told me like that. Told me something similar to that. And Kenny, you just when you were gone down, and Kenny said it also. He said when people are
Yeah.
hungry and they lacking things that they need, it
That's
desperate
right.
measures calls for desperate action, and
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
what people understand. And it's just
Absolutely.
hard. But when I look at our kids, uh, just what it comes down to our kids. I'm a bleeding heart for my kids. And when I see my kids out here dying in the streets, and I see my kids out here killing each other in the streets, and then when you hear it, they knew each other. It was somebody that they
Yeah.
knew that actually did it. And I was like, how do we turn these things around? We talk about the cops, and we know there are some dirty cops out there. We've seen it with
Yeah.
George Floyd and so many others. But how how do we get our kids to turn around from this? We shouldn't be fighting against each other. We need to be working together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we can figure that out, we'll be millionaires.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
Oh,
the
don't forget to put a plug in for my book too. Now I got a book. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I
oh,
want it.
let's see it. Let's see it.
You got it?
Um, Let me see if I got it in my closet. I can show it to you. Let's see.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you got. Huh? Kenny,
That's
we gotta do this one again.
yeah. We still live though.
Okay, but yeah, so okay, while we waiting
Yeah.
on Donald, let's go back to you. You know, when
Yep.
especially oh there he goes.
There he goes.
This is my book.
Let's
Can
see
you
it.
see
Hold
it?
on a
Yes, I
second.
need it.
But for the grace of
There you
God.
go.
Is that,
How
can
can they
it,
get it? How can we get it, Donald?
Well, it's on Amazon, but I'd rather them get it from me.
Oh, I wouldn't even put mine on Amazon. But yeah, I got your number. I want the
definitely. Give me a
book.
copy too.
Okay.
Can anybody out there made any comments
Yeah.
we could go to real quick?
Yeah, people are just hello, and they're with it's the technical difficulty. I know it is
Yeah.
the streaming. Our weather.
Yeah, we're
I
gonna have
don't
to
know.
do this again, man. We got a
Yeah,
little
Yeah,
technical
next
problems
Thursday.
going on, but we gotta do. Y'all ever heard of StreamYard or something like that?
this is I don't know.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Uh, let's see. I'm gonna add.
Let's end it, Kenny.
Huh?
Let's end it and then just talk behind stream so we can work it out for next week.
Okay. Well, guess I'm out of the picture, but just want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. I know we're experiencing technical difficulties right now, but do come back next week where we'll have all of this worked out. We want to thank our very special guest, Mr. Donald Gilliard, for taking time out of his schedule to
Yeah.
enlighten us, to spread his wisdom and knowledge on things that many of us don't even know about. Things like he brought up tonight about experiences that he had with guys when they would get the commissary notes in prison, and then his stuff would be gone. They'd rob him of it because he didn't share. But that's the bottom line. We have to share everything that we have to build our community
Yeah.
together, you know? And
Yeah.
Donald, are there any final words you want to say tonight to the people?
Well, I just want to thank Renee for uh, giving me the opportunity to come on. I really enjoyed it, and I'm hoping that you all invite me back again as we talk about some other things, that I want to discuss because, I'm a jury consultant now. Isn't it amazing?
Oh,
From having a life sentence and 20 years in federal prisons, and now I help major law firms choose juries in major multi-million dollar cases. So,
awesome.
that's something that we could talk about too.
Sounds
So
great.
thank you all so much. I enjoyed it. And each one of us, we got a responsibility to do what we do, just what we did today. Somebody heard it. That's all
Yes.
we can do. Just do what we can do. Thank you all so much.
Yes. And on that note, thank you so much, Donald, for your wisdom and kind words. But we'll definitely be back next week where we'll go more in depth about the things that he just brought up. But until then,
Thank you.
good night, everybody. We love you. And again, we're sorry for the technical difficulties tonight, but we will see you next week. Have a great evening.
Thank
Here
you.
come the big rig kids, roll with the big rig kids. Let's Sapphire the truck, take you to such amazing places with the big rig kids. Those helpful big rig kids, see how they give and grow and get to know amazing things. Learn with the big rig kids, and you'll see how it is to have adventure days and hang and play with all your friends. Because the big rig kids know what it is to live a most exciting and inviting life is positive. Sapphire with the voice of wisdom keeps the story rolling, and by golly, Grandma Polly drives them all to where they're going. Hop on in, everybody. Let's go! Caden, he's the leader of the crew. He's smart and brave and true. Sasha, Caden's twin, she cares a lot but can be stubborn too. Caden loves a good book too. And then Sasha, she's a regular computer guru. These are the big rig kids, roll with the big rig kids. Let's Sapphire the truck, take you to such amazing places with the big rig kids. Those helpful big rig kids, see how they give and grow and get to know amazing things. Now Maria can be rude and bossy, braces on her legs and knees, but it's not fun and hard to run with a disability.